If you're listening to this episode, there is a decent chance you are somewhere in the vicinity of your first hire. Let's take a quick pause for a cause. I'm hosting a live virtual workshop called Before They Join, where I walk you through all 5 Porch dimensions to help you get hire ready in your business. Now, your score, in real time, you'll receive your score and your own foundation while I facilitate, and you leave with the knowledge of knowing exactly what to build before your first hire walks through the door. This workshop is only $20 and is virtual and is happening on June 5th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. The link for register is in the show notes. I hope we see you there. Now back to the episode. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while and you just haven't pulled the trigger. Or maybe you already made the decision and you're trying to figure out what the hell does this even look like before they get here on day one. And there may be some of you who are just not totally sure what ready even looks like. You just know you are booked, busy, and tired of doing all the things. If you fall anywhere in this vicinity, this episode is for you. Welcome to More Than a Brand, the podcast for growth stage service business CEOs who are tired of watching clients they've already earned quietly walk out the back door while they keep spending money to bring new ones in the front. I'm Lindsay Tramel-Jones, the CEO of Fiercified Consulting. I'm a client relationship strategist and an Army veteran. This show is about the one thing most business advice skips entirely: the relationship your team builds with clients every single day. You've done the hard part. Let's make sure your team can sustain what you built. This is More Than a Brand. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to More Than a Brand podcast. I'm going to jump straight into this episode because this is something that I've noticed that a lot of entrepreneurs, once they hit that growth stage and they're booked and busy, that they struggle with. Most founders that I talk to who are approaching their first hire are asking the wrong questions. They are asking, am I ready to hire? When the right question should be, is my business really ready for someone else to step in and start doing the work? And those are two different things. And the difference between those two things is what this episode is about. Hiring a good person and building a business that's ready to hold them are completely different. Most founders, however, figure this out after they hire. And this episode is about you being a little more proactive than reactive. We want to make sure you have it figured out before you bring somebody on board. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I am a North Carolina raised Southern girl. I tell my husband all the time that when we start making changes to our house, the first thing we're going to do is get this porch wrapped around it. Give me a screened in porch, glassed in. I don't care because I'm not trying to do these bugs. And I'm going to sit out on my porch with my retirement drink and say we needed this rain. But all that to say is that I created a porch framework to help businesses who are in the midst of hiring and what to do prior to you bringing on your first long-term contractor or employee. A porch on a house is welcoming, it's inviting. It is what people have to go through to get actually into your home. So think of the porch framework as what an employee has to get through and go through to get into your business completely integrated. And it completely maps out your pre-hire foundation across 5 specific dimensions. And over the next 20 something minutes, I'm going to walk you through all 5. I'm going to tell you what each one is, why it matters. And I'm also going to ask you one question per dimension that will tell you honestly whether you have it in place or rather it still lives inside you. So let's get into it. What does PORCH stand for? P is persona, who your client is as a person. O is for onboarding, a structured experience with a clear input for your new employees. I'm going to use employees lightly, like employees also can mean long-term contractors. R is for roadmap. That is the job description. What specific tasks do you want them to do? And what's the rhythm that they need to be conducting those tasks? C is for conduct. How should that hire show up when it comes to talking to clients? And then H is heart, the emotional target at every stage of the client experience that you want them to aim for when delivering your product or your service. When a founder hires without a porch in place, it kind of goes like this. She finds a good person, she trains them, explains how her business works to them, probably introduces her to some clients, and then she steps back. Like, here you go, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then what the hire delivers is close because she was listening. Like, she hired a good person. But it's a version of what the founder built, maybe 80% of it, and not what the founder wants or what the client expects, which is more important when dealing with the business. And sometimes that shows up as the tone being slightly different or the follow through is slightly less consistent. It could be the way that that hire is handling that tricky situation when it comes to those clients. And so the founder feels it immediately because this is her business. She built it off her instincts. And then she starts reviewing things she delegated and asking to be CC'd on all the things. On the flip side, the hire starts feeling like the founder does not trust her. So they're already breaking down the relationship between the founder and the hire when all this could have been avoided. So the founder is probably asking herself, is this a me problem or did I hire the wrong person? And you start doubting yourself as a founder when in reality, you just didn't have the foundation in place to bring a person on. Yes, you were at capacity, you were booked and busy, but your business was not prepared to bring a person on. So with the 5 dimensions, I'm going to name each one of them. We've already briefly went over them, but I'm about to jump into them a little bit more. And then I'm going to ask you one question. And the question is your score for that dimension. So be honest with yourself. Don't answer the question based on what you hope to be doing. What are you doing right now in this moment? And if you don't feel good about the answer, that's okay. We're here to learn and we're here to make sure we know better so we can do better. Okay, so P, persona. That's what the P in Porch stands for. And once again, that's who your client is as a person. It's not the demographics like their industry, revenue, all that good stuff that people always tell you to figure out. But it's definitely the psychology. What is she thinking when she first reaches out? What frustrations brought her to you? What makes her stay year after year? And critically, what would make her quietly leave without saying anything? Your hire needs to recognize your client before she has ever spoken to her. In failing to do so, your hire is delivering a standard to an abstract person instead of a real human being she understands. Different clients respond to different types of communication, and your hire cannot know the difference if the persona has never been made explicit enough for them to understand. So before you bring somebody on, and even though you may know what your clients are like, you need to have very clear documentation and very clear answers to help your new hire understand exactly who the person is that they're working with when it comes to delivering your product or service. So the question I want you to ask yourself, could you describe your ideal client enough in detail that a new hire could recognize her and understand what she needs before their very first interaction? All right. Okay. So that's it. That's the P. That's the persona. And we're going to move on to the O, which is onboarding. Onboarding, the O in the Porch method, which is the second dimension, is the plan on how your hire absorbs the relationship standard within her first, let's say, 30 days. Not what task she completes, but how she learns what great looks like. Most founders plan the operational onboarding. So that means like the systems, the tools, the passwords, the workflows, but very few plan the relationship onboarding. What does she observe before she touches anything independently? What does she practice with you reviewing it? When does she go fully independent? And what does this milestone look like? Onboarding is not just orientation. It has to have a structure and a cadence and a clear endpoint. Not just she gonna shadow me for a couple of days and then So the question I want you to ask yourself is, do you have a documented plan for what your hire observes, practices, and owns in her first 30 days with a specific endpoint? Or are you planning to figure out when she gets here? All right, you should have the answer. Write it down because we're moving right along to the R, which is roadmap. Now, roadmap is a job beyond the description, not just the title. So when you're thinking of a roadmap, I like to call it a battle rhythm because of my time served. But what does the week to week, the day to day? What does that look like? What specific tasks does the hire own, and how often do they need to happen? And what does a good week look like versus a falling behind week? Most founders have a general sense of what a hire will do. Very few have a specific list with a cadence. And the gap between a general sense and a specific list is where the hire gets lost. Because sometimes they're following up. Sometimes they're making up their own battle rhythm. It's so loosey-goosey when you bring on a hire that she starts making decisions that she should not be making, or missing things that she didn't know she was supposed to catch, or even escalating things that should have been handled independently. So that roadmap goes deeper than just understanding the title, but it also has to give them a clear understanding of how to be successful. The question I want you to ask yourself for this dimension is, can you name 5 specific tasks, and if there's less than 5, however many, your hire owns on a weekly basis, and what the escalation standard is when she does not know what to do? All right, we almost there. We got 2 more dimensions. C, conduct. So conduct is how the hire shows up in every client interaction, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. And it's not just a tone or a written email. It's the word she uses, the energy she brings to a call. It could be the graphics that she uses, depending on the job. It's the way she carries herself with the clients. And it's what she never improvises on. When I think about conduct, I think about Chick-fil-A. And how when you go to various Chick-fil-A's, if they do not say my pleasure, you're like, what am my pleasure at? Because you expect a certain type of conduct from Chick-fil-A employees. This is the dimension where the drift shows up first because it is the most visible. So a slightly off tone in an email or response that takes a little longer than you would have sent it, or the way she handles a difficult moment, that conduct cannot be taught by example alone. You cannot show them every example in the book in a 3-day shadow session. It's just not going to happen. So you need to have it defined so that they have a clear understanding on how to conduct themselves when interacting or doing forward-facing things for the client or delivering your product or service. For this section, I want you to ask yourself, if your hire were a client email without you reviewing it, would you know immediately whether it sounded like your business or like her? All right, last, heart, H, in the Porch method. Heart is the emotional target at every stage of the client experience. Not satisfied, that's like the floor. You want people to be satisfied. But I mean the specific feeling you're aiming for. So for example, like at stage 1, when a potential client finds you, what should they feel? Should they feel relieved? Should they feel ecstatic? What kind of feeling are you trying to make sure that they have? Say at stage 3, when she says yes, what should the first 24 hours feel like? Or at stage 5, when the engagement closes, what keeps the relationship alive? Each stage has a different emotional target. Most founders know this instinctively because when building this business, they build it off their instincts, how they move and how they operate. But they have never had to put it into words until they hired someone and discovered that their instincts did not transfer. The emotional target does. For this piece, I want you to ask yourself, has your hire been given a specific emotional target at each stage of the experience? Not just a be professional and responsive, but a specific feeling that you are aiming to produce when they are interacting with clients or delivering your product or service. And if you don't have a hire, do you have it written down? So if you were to hire someone, that they can be able to deliver the heart of the business. All right, so let's get into what all this means. Count up how many of those Porch dimensions you answered honestly yes. So yes is a 1 and no was a 0. And let me tell you what each range means. If your Porch score is a 0 or a 1, you're in the most common place I see founders who are approaching their first hire. You've built something real. You're booked and busy. People love you. You are ready. You, as the founder, are screaming for help, and clients stay because of how you make them feel and the standard. But that Porch lives inside you. And that's not a failure. It's exactly where most service business founders are when they start thinking about hiring. You built a business on instincts and relationships. You never needed to make it explicit because it was just you. The work ahead of you is not starting over. It's starting to extract what you already know and putting it into the 5 porch dimensions so your hire can actually use it before she shows up. Not after she spent 90 days absorbing the wrong version of it and trying to figure it out, flapping in the wind. If your porch score is 2 or 3, you have started building. You've probably been more intentional about this than most founders, and you have documented some things and defined some roles, thought through some of the scenarios, but you have gaps in your porch, and in a hire, gaps get filled by default, and it's her default, not yours. The good news is you know exactly where the work is. The porch dimensions your honest answers revealed are the ones to close before the hire joins, or while she's still new enough that the foundation can be reset. Now, if your porch score is 4 or 5, you are in amazing shape. Congratulations, friend. That doesn't mean that you're done, though. It just means you're close enough that one honest conversation could tell you whether the porch dimension is actually solid or whether something that feels ready still has gaps underneath it. The founders who think their porch is built usually discovers it's not in the worst possible moment. And that's probably when a client noticed something is off, and a clean diagnostic now prevents that. Regardless of the score, the porch is not optional. We're not building houses without porches. We're not building businesses without porches. It is the difference between a hire that extends you and a hire that you spend the next 6 months trying to manage around or micromanaging because they did not have the foundation that they needed. Here's what I want you to do before this episode drops out of your queue. I want you to register for our live virtual workshop where we do exactly what we just did here, but in real time together with every person in the room scoring their own porch while I facilitate. You'll leave with your full porch gap map, which will tell you what 5 dimensions are built, which ones need work, and which ones haven't even been started yet. You'll also leave with specific next steps based on your score. The price is $20. It's 1 hour. The link to registering is in your show notes. It is going down on June 5th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Spots are available and seats are limited. If you cannot make the live workshop, I want you to take the flow build assessment instead. It takes maybe 5 minutes and it scores your porch across all 5 dimensions and gives you the map digitally. The link is also in the show notes. If you scored 0 to 2 today, the workshop is the most important thing you can do for your business before you post that job description. The porch has to come before the hire each and every time. The best way to build a porch is before the hire joins. The second best time is right now. This has been another episode of More Than a Brand. Remember, your business is more than a brand, and your customers deserve to feel that way too. See you in the next episode.